Okay, so can everyone see the presentation? Okay, so at any time you can't see the presentation or you can't hear me, please let me know. You can unmute yourself and just let me know. So this is the ENC 1101 boot camp. And there's some of the expectations for the ENC 1102 course. I'm sorry, the ENC 1102 course. This is your argument course. And what you're going to do in this course is analyze text and the author's rhetorical strategies. You're going to write essays using a variety of rhetorical strategies, and you will get this information in your course. You're going to use standard American English. You're going to present, evaluate, balance, and respect perspectives that are different from your own in your writing. You're going to utilize the TCC library databases. You're going to quote and paraphrase content, and you're going to cite all broad information according to MLA 9 guidelines. So the outcomes for this course is you're going to compose a coherent essay for a variety of rhetorical contexts. You're going to find and evaluate documents and apply information from sources using standard disciplines. You're going to analyze and evaluate a piece of writing by constructing a well-supported response that synthesizes ideas from sources in development of students' own ideas. So basically in this course, this is an argument course, and you will go in, most of your work will be done in Canvas, and you will be uploading all of your information in Canvas along with your essays and so forth. And this is an argument course. So in this course, you are going to be analyzing different types of modes, different types of genres, different types of readings, even videos perhaps. And based on the type of writing that you're going to be doing, you're going to be analyzing that information and creating essays based on that information. And there are going to be different types of essays that you will be creating. And the first type of essay that you're probably going to come across is the rhetorical analysis essay. Remember, all of your information and all of your work is going to be in Canvas. And you won't see that information until Monday because that's when class officially starts. So your Canvas shell might not even be open right now. However, when you do open up your Canvas shell, be sure to read your announcements and look at your modules because you're going to come across all of the information in the handouts that you're going to need to construct your essays. If you go to class, your instructor will probably give those handouts to you in person. However, if you are online, be sure that you have to read through all of the material that your instructor gives you so that you can comprehend the assignments that you are required to complete. So the first type of assignment you're going to see is a rhetorical analysis essay. In this type of essay, you're going to analyze an artifact, an article, video, or other type of medium, for the effectiveness of the author's argument. So to do this, you will examine which rhetorical appeals, ethos, pathos, and logos the author uses to make his or her case. If you're not familiar with ethos, pathos, and logos, those are types of argument rhetorical appeals. And we are happy to help you in the Learning Commons if you don't understand the gist of it when you're in class, or if you're online and you're trying to read through the handouts, we can go over that information with you. However, what you're doing here is you're analyzing how effective the author uses these rhetorical appeals in their article or in their video or other type of medium that your professor may give you. So we're talking a little bit about the appeals themselves. So ethos is the appeal to credibility. And basically, when you appeal to someone's credibility, that means you're using that person's stance in public, you're using that person's background, you're using that person's publication or the fair-mindedness of that person to establish credibility to the audience. So basically, in your paper, if you read a journal article where the author alludes to the fact that the people that he is citing are credible because they are experts in their field, then he is using an appeal to ethos. Logos is an appeal to reason. So now the author is going to use facts or data and statistics in the journal article or in the video or in the other medium or any mode to convince the author that their argument is effective or legit. So they'll use facts and data and statistics and real life examples, definitions or quotations to get their argument across. And for you, your job is to point out those examples of appeals to logos in the journal article in your essay. So if the author does use logos, you will say that the author appeals to logos by using these types of strategies to effectively appeal to the audience. And then the last type of appeal is appeal to pathos. And this appeals to the emotion of the audience. So the author might use emotionally loaded language. They might use vivid descriptions or emotional tone or emotional examples. Either way, they're trying to incite some type of reaction out of the audience. So this is where the author is trying to appeal to the emotion of the audience. So when you write your essays, they're all going to be set up or constructed in a way that is organized, where you have an introduction, body, paragraphs, and a conclusion. And in your introduction, basically, most introductions, your instructor is going to want you to lead in with a hook or some type of interesting catch, so to engage your reader. And then you're going to move into the summary of the article or the video or the medium, because your audience needs to know what it is that you are effectively trying to analyze. So your summary is going to come right after the leading in the book. And if you can't remember how to write a summary, or you need a refresher on how to write a summary, we can definitely assist you in the Learning Commons with how to construct one. So your summary is basically an overview of the author's or the director's argument. And then after your summary in the introduction, remember we're still in the introduction paragraph, you will have your thesis statement, which assesses the effectiveness of the argument based on the author's or director's rhetorical appeals. So remember, this is all one paragraph. This is your introduction paragraph. And your introduction is going to have the lead in, the summary, and your thesis. So this is an example of a rhetorical appeals. I'm sorry. This is an example of a rhetorical a claim for rhetorical appeals. So this is your thesis statement. So in ENC 1102, you're probably going to hear your thesis statement known as the claim, because this is an argument class. So an example of it is Dr. Tanaka convinces her readers about the danger of microplastics through relevant statistics, emotional examples, and citations from experts in the field. So this is the thesis statement. This is the roadmap to the rest of your paper. And this thesis statement is the last sentence of the introductory paragraph, remember. And what this student is going to analyze is logos, which is relevant statistics. That's their first body paragraph. And then they're going to analyze emotional examples, which is pathos. And then they're going to analyze ethos, which is citations from experts in the field. On a side note, your instructor might want you to use the words ethos, pathos, and logos in your thesis statement. So you would add those words in your thesis statement if your instructor requires you to do that. So that's why I say it's very important that you look at the modules and you look at the handouts and take good notes on what is required of you from your instructor on how to create your thesis statement. So a potential organization of rhetorical analysis essay, you have your introduction. You will have rhetorical appeal number 1. That's your first body paragraph. And remember from our example, our first body paragraph is going to talk about relevant statistics. Then you will have your second body paragraph, your third body paragraph, excuse me. Your third body paragraph, and then your conclusion. So this is a potential setup for the body, the rest of your paper, the organization for the rest of your paper. The next type of essay that you're going to come across is the position essay. And this is your standard Tolman argument. So you're going to articulate a position. So you're going to take a stance on an issue. And your instructor is probably going to give you specific issues that they want you to take a stance on. Or they might say that you can find your own position or your own issue that they want you to develop an essay on. But remember, always check with your instructor first before you find a topic. If they don't give you a topic, to make sure that the topic is so that your instructor knows that that's the topic that you're going to write about, and they approve the topic. So what you're going to do is support your position with credible evidence. And you're going to do that by going to the library and using the TCC database. So you're definitely going to get familiar with the TCC database in the library, because this is where all your supporting details is going to come from, your secondary supporting details. And what you're going to do is present an opposing viewpoint to those that argue against your stance. And you're going to offer a rebuttal to those opposing viewpoints. So in a position argument, you will have in your introduction, in your essay, you will have your lead and your hook, just like the last one. But this time, instead of a summary, you're going to give background information on the topic. So let the readers know, let your audience know what the topic is. You might give a definition about the topic, or give a little bit of background information about why the topic is relevant, why it's important, and why you're bringing it up, and what's the argument that's being known for it. And then your thesis is going to be the arguable claim of that position. So you're going to take a stance, and your thesis statement is going to be what you're going to write about in terms of the issue. So a sample claim for a position essay, which is the thesis statement, would be the best way to save the coral reefs is for the governments across the world to reduce carbon emissions and prohibit the use of sunscreens that cause coral reefs to die. So in this sample position argument, this student is going to talk about how to save the coral reefs. And they have a few issues on what they say would be beneficial in how to save those coral reefs. And this is going to be the stance of their paper. So a possible organization for this position essay would be the introduction. And remember, your thesis or your claim is going to be the last sentence. And then you have the first body paragraph, and they're going to talk a little bit about the rate of coral reef deaths. So in the body paragraphs, they're going to tell us, and why is it an issue that we try to save the coral reefs? We're going to talk a little bit about why it's an issue. Then the next body paragraph can probably talk about carbon emissions in coral reef deaths. And then they can talk about sunscreen and coral reef deaths. And then you have your rebuttal. So your rebuttal is, you're going to bring in the opposing side's argument. You're going to say, yes, there are some people say that coral reefs don't need to be saved because of this reason. However, you're going to refute that claim and come back with your own argument and say why your position needs to stand. So that's your rebuttal. And remember, each instructor is going to be different, so they might have you lay out your organization a little bit different. So be sure to look at the directions or assignment sheets or ask your instructor about the layout. And then you can probably have the importance of regulation and why your stance still matters. And then you would have your conclusion paragraph. So remember, this is one possible organizational position essay. However, your instructor is probably going to have an outline on how they want your essay to be organized. And then the last type of essay you're going to come across is the pro-con consensus or Rogerian essay. And in this type of essay, you're going to identify a significant topic, and you can present each side's main argument. Now, unlike the last paper, that was your argument. So you took a stance on an issue, and you talked to the audience about why you thought that issue was a problem and why it should be solved or how it should be remedied. In this case, you are the middleman. So you're standing outside of the argument, And in this type of argument essay, you are listening to two sides of an argument. And your job is to present those two sides in the paper. And at the end of your paper, you're going to find a common ground between both of those sides and or present a compromise. So your background, your introduction for your Rogerian essay should include background about the topic and why it's important. So again, you're going to bring in the topic itself and tell the audience why it's significant to bring up. And then you're going to present both sides of that argument. Remember what's important to remember about all of these papers, as they should be written in third-person point of view. So in all of your papers, you should avoid I, me, and definitely you in your papers, because these are argument papers. You're going to stay in a third-person position, especially in a Rogerian essay, because a Rogerian essay completely takes you out of the argument and you're presenting two different sides of an argument. So in your introduction, you're going to bring in those two sides. You're going to say those who believe smoking should be banned and those who believe vaping should be banned and those who believe vaping should not be banned. So you'll bring in those two sides. And then you're going to frame the topic as a question at the end of the introduction. So instead of a claim here, you're going to have a question, because the claim actually, or the compromise, is going to come at the end of your essay. So instead, you're going to phrase it as a question: should the government ban vaping? So a potential organization of a consensus Rogerian essay would be, you would have your introduction. Remember, you're going to bring in the topic. You're going to bring in both sides of the argument. And then you're going to phrase a question at the end of that introduction. The body of your essay is going to present those two sides of the argument. So you'll bring in side A. That might be the people that believe that vaping should not be banned. So you have maybe one or two paragraphs based on side A's point of view in third person. So you would say, opponents of banning vaping argue that. So that's how the rest of the organization of your paper is going to be lined out. You're going to be speaking in third person about these two sides. And then the next part of your essay is going to be side B's point of view and what they say. And then the last paragraph of the Rogerian essay is going to be the common ground or compromise paragraph. So in this paragraph, there's two things that might happen. Your instructor might want you to find a common ground, or your instructor might want you to find a compromise. Be sure to look at the details. So with common ground, both of those, common ground basically says that you're trying to find one specific area where both sides can agree in terms of vaping. So one example might say both those who oppose vaping and those who endorse it as a better alternative to cigarettes want to respect individual freedom and for people to be healthy. So that's a common ground. You don't really give a solution, but you find a common ground that both of those they can agree on. A compromise, though, tries to satisfy both sides of the argument by giving some type of remedy. So an example might say the government should not ban vaping, but it could instead mandate better testing cartridges and increase regulations to ensure teenagers cannot access the product. So that's a compromise that may satisfy both sides of the argument. Again, be sure to read your directions and talk to your instructor about which conclusion that they would want in your essay. Another thing to consider is when you're thinking of topics, if your instructor doesn't give you a clear topic to write about, think about the topics that you might want to write on, because some topics can be hard to find common ground or compromise to go for. So it may be hard to find the common ground and compromise for some topics that are so far removed from one another that there might not be any remedy or compromise to come up with. So think about that in terms of the topics that you choose if your instructor doesn't give you a clear choice of what to write about. And then remember, you're going to be utilizing the TCC database a lot in the library. And the librarians are there to assist you with finding journal articles for your essays and to find credible sources. A little bit about when you're looking for credible sources, if you're not using the library though, I would advise though to go to the librarians, talk to them, is to check to make sure that the source that you're using is credible. If it's credible, then you can determine if it's credible by understanding if the author is the author of the source and the expert in their field. Is the information up to date? You don't want it too far removed from today's issues that it doesn't apply anymore. Is the purpose of the source to inform and not to sell? Are there many facts and details rather than opinions? And does the domain end in the following: edu, gov, or org? If so, then the source is most likely credible. Always, always stay away from Wikipedia. That is never going to be a credible source. Another example might be blog post or Twitter post. Unless you're trying to give you specific examples or specific instructions on how they might want you to use something that's not a credible source, stay away from those types of sources. And you can always follow the Learning Commons on the MyTCC app for up-to-date information, study tips, and resources. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the Learning Commons and what's going to happen during the semester, during the Learning Commons, or you can follow us on MyTCC to keep update on that information. And now I will ask that if anyone has any questions, they can answer them in the chat or ask me now before we stop the session. If you have any questions about the class or what you think, or if you have any questions about the assignments that you're going to do in the class, then definitely you can ask me in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask me.